What's up, Bear Nation? We are in the prepper classroom. Operator voice. Today, we're going to go over 15. That's this many times this many. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Both of which are prime numbers, interestingly enough. 3 and 5. Illuminati. 15 considerations for mission planning for SHTF. Yeah, there you go, right there. Come out of her, my people, lest you partake of her sins and therefore her plagues. That's right. Mission planning for SHTF. I've gotten several emails on this. I've done a write-up and a couple of videos about this on Patreon, and I figured it was time that we whiteboarded this in the prepper classroom. This is definitely going to be one of those times that if you are taking notes, you want to take notes, because this scribblage right here is about 4.5% of what I actually know on the subject. And we're gonna cruise, because if I give 2 minutes to each line, that's a half an hour. Mission planning for SHTF. The first thing that you need to understand is, what is the mission? You have to clearly define the mission. It must be more than, we're gonna survive the zombie apocalypse. Cool story, bro. You and everybody else at this channel. How? How are we going to do that? We are going to survive the zombie apocalypse by Directive 1, understanding that it's not actually a zombie apocalypse. Directive 2, stocking food to the rafters. Directive 3, strengthening our relations within the community. Directive 4, increasing our agriculture. Directive 5, setting up a communications plan and running it. Directive 6, making sure we are squared away to bug out whenever we need to. And Directive 7, being so wildly independent and strong where we are right now that we don't have to worry too much about bugging out. So that Directive 8, we can be an asset, not a liability. Might be a good place to start. All that was off the top of my head. So what is actually the mission? You must be specific. I'll use some grindstone deployments as an example. By the way, grindstoneministries.com is live. If you want to stay up to speed with everything we have going on there, it's legitimately tremendous. So when we do grindstone missions, for example, we'll say Florida, right? What was the mission? We're going to deploy to Panama City, Florida with 36 volunteers from this Friday through this Sunday. While we are there, we are going to feed this many meals. We are going to perform this many construction projects. We will be staying at this location with these vehicles and these peoples, and we need this many teams doing these things in order to affect positive change on target. Now we're starting to actually get an op order, because we've defined what the mission is. You have to get this right first. If this is amorphous, the rest of this doesn't matter, okay? You need a fine, knife-handy point on what is the mission. A great way to actually know what the mission is to have a really solid idea of what your intel is and to do a really good area study, both of which we've discussed here before in other videos. But you got to know what you're doing and where you're operating to get a sense of what the mission profile is, okay? Next, how many people? For example, first Florida deployment, we had 36 people. 32 people. Next Florida deployment, we had literally twice as many, 64. And while 64 was great, it was also a logistical challenge because we had so many people. And it far exceeded our expectations as far as the response to that deployment. So you need to know how many people you need to get the job done. A little bit of cushion is good, but having too many people can present its own challenges. It's just as much of an issue to have too many people as it is to have not enough people. So you want to have clearly defined roles. How many people? The logistics of feeding, orchestrating, securing, communicating with, protecting, keeping out of the weather, having places to poop, food to eat, water to drink, blah, 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 blah. Just the logistics around how many people, okay? There is a point of diminishing returns, meaning there's a sweet spot. Maybe 5 isn't enough, but 12 is definitely too much. Okay, so let's look at 9. 9 sounds like it could be a good number. And then perhaps we err on the side of caution and we go to 10. But we know 12 is too much, and I'm concerned that 5 is not going to be enough. Cool. All of this comes back to, if you really know what you're trying to do, you can start to back into these numbers. The support that's required for your people. The more people you have, the more complicated the logistics get, and you experience a greater rate of diminishing returns to support said people. So again, how many people? It matters. Break your people into teams. This is something that we've done, and it's been a wild success, and we will continue to do in perpetuity until the day I am gathered to my people, which is Hebrew for until the day I die. Okay? Here's the deal. We have a security team. We have media teams. We have construction teams. We have a logistics team. We have a kitchen crew. We have a crew that does nothing but run the fob. We have drivers. We have a commo guy or commo guys. Right? We have an advanced party that's going out into the neighborhoods that we're operating in, gathering intel and bringing that back. And then we have me. Okay? And the way that I lead, by the way, is here you go. Here's the authority that's been vested in you by me. Go do your job. If you need me, I'll be right here. Otherwise, I don't need to know. If your question is, hey, Bear, what should I be using, 720p or 1080i or 4K? You're clearly on the media team, which means you need to go talk to that guy, because I don't know. I don't want to know. It's not my job. My job is to oversee all of this. You go get with that person. Hey, Bear, when are we going to depart the fob to go deliver this? You need to go get with either our logistics personnel or the kitchen staff, and y'all coordinate when you're going to send a field team to this neighborhood to go feed those people. Not my job. I don't want to know, because there's too much stuff going on in here for me to do my job, okay, which is to manage the chaos. I don't need additional chaos. So break your people into teams and sub-teams, and everybody needs to know who they report to and what they're doing. Now, you need to be careful to not get overly militaristic with your knife hands. Listen here, Susie, you're on the kitchen team, and you better get in there and make those pinto beans, or I will get at least 40 face beaters out of you. Do you understand, Susie? Like, Susie's gone. She's done. She didn't sign up for that, okay? So bring it back a step. Here's the deal, Susie. We really need help in the kitchen. If you could help us, I got to get these pinto beans done because they're going to be used for baked beans. We got to bake these baked beans because they're going to go with this whatever brisket that we're making, and then we're going to go deliver that with this, and it's imperative that we get this on the road by 2. It's 10 a.m. this morning, so we're going to have to give those a hard boil because we didn't pre-soak them. Susie, you got this? Cool. You report to Sally, and if there's anything you need, let Sally know. If you, Susie and Sally can't figure it out, please come see me. I will help assist, okay? So your approach matters. Gosh, we got to cruise. How many vehicles? This matters, because again, just like diminishing returns, if you have 3 dozen people show up and everybody brings a vehicle, now you got 3 dozen vehicles. When you don't need 3 dozen vehicles, and you're dealing with the complicating issues of how do we park 3 dozen vehicles? How do we secure 3 dozen vehicles? Because we're operating in an environment that's not the best place to be. Securing 3 dozen vehicles is a lot harder than securing a dozen vehicles, okay? It spreads our forces out thinner. There's a longer reaction time. There's more potential targets for ne'er-do-wells, so forth and so on. So how many vehicles? How are you going to fuel them? The security you're going to dedicate to that. If you go post-event, what's the PCMS? How are you going to maintain all these different vehicles? Okay? Like, you have to give thought to this. Parking, simply where are you going to put all these vehicles? Now, that may not be an issue for some of us, but for some of us it is. Now, I live rurally, y'all know that, but we operate in an urban environment a lot of the time when we go do this disaster relief. And again, I'm just using disaster relief here as an example to apply all these things. You take this and put it on your situation, apply it however you see fit to actually learn from this, okay? So how many vehicles matters? 2 is better than 1. 12 isn't necessarily better than 2. A good rule is about 5 or 6. If you're rolling that many people and you have that many vehicles, because you can have one lead vehicle out front, half a mile ahead with commo, we'll get to that, Hey guys, yeah, this neighborhood sucks. We're gonna need to be careful here, roger that. And typically what we do when we go into a bad neighborhood is I own it, it's now mine. I don't care if you're the most Billy badass gangbanger that's ever lived. For the next hour, this is my neighborhood, the end. And we shut the street down. We'll park our vehicles at the end of the street, we take it over, it's ours. Now I live here. And when Bear leaves, you can have it back again. But for right now, we're gonna love on people. We're gonna distribute this food. We're gonna pray with people. We're gonna look at your house and see if there's anything we can do to fix it. We're gonna hand out groceries, sanitation supplies, so forth and so on. And then you can go back to being a thug when we leave. But right now, this block is mine. And a lot of that is just projecting this air about you that goes, you really don't press these buttons. And your vibe attracts your tribe. So when you roll up with a couple dozen guys like this, the gangbangers go, you know what, we're gonna sit this one out. Y'all have a good one. Copy. So if you have that advanced vehicle that can go and look around and get back to you and go, it's a little rough over here, cool, we're taking the whole street. Front vehicle blocks off one end, back vehicle blocks off the other, your middle vehicles. Usually the one that's right in the middle is the one pulling the trailer, distributing food, supplies, so forth, so on. And then you have one in front of that, one behind that, which are basically security vehicles, right? And we'll get to EDC and carry protocol here next, because everybody in the Bear Nation carries a weapon. That's not official, but it's unofficial, official. PPE and EDC, personal protective equipment. What do you need to do the job? Some of what we do is running chainsaws. So you're gonna need eye pro, ear pro, gloves, chaps, so forth, so on. Safety vest, potentially, hard hat, right? Some of what we do is simply distributing goods. Okay, well, what PPE do you need? Some shades is probably a good idea, a hat, so forth, so on. So eyes and ears, yeah. Weapons, do you carry a one of these? Short answer for us is yeah. 24/7, 365, pretty much everybody. And so depending on where you are and what you're doing, yeah. And then beyond that, do you have a pocket knife for opening boxes or whatever? A light, a tourniquet, etc. What considerations PPE or EDC, personal protective equipment or everyday carry, are there relative to what this mission is? Who, not just how many people, but who? What are their ages? Because we've had everything from toddlers to the elderly on mission. What is their health status? Because we have everything from people who actively have cancer right now to people who are in the pinnacle of their health. Also, something to add in here is, when was the last time these people slept? Maybe they drove from Moab, where the Jeeps come from, for 16, 18 hours, and they're on site, but they need some coffee and or a nap. I see you, bro. And then what are their specializations? So who are we dealing with? How old are they? What's their health status? And what can they do? What can they do matters, because I don't want to take my guy who's a classically trained chef and pull him away from food production and put him over here into logistics, unless he wants to be in logistics. But even then, there's a consideration there, because the overall success of the mission is more important than our individual egos. I want to get the job done much more than I want to do the thing that makes me feel good about myself. So I'm going to get in where I can fit in. Wherever you need me, as long as I can adequately do that job, I will do it. Okay? But what is their specialization? So if my classically trained chef is open to it, hey, guess what, bro? You're gonna be whipping up the food. Awesome. If my plumber is like, yeah, I really wanted to be in logistics, I'm like, that's great, but we got some busted pipes, so you go plumb some stuff, and then after that, you can get logistical, okay? Security is one of those things where we tend to have a lot of floaters in security, because when we put security together, there are lots of people on the security team, but they rotate in and out on watches, which is why we have a team leader for security, so he can put together the watch and distribute that workload as needed. But having a specialization in security helps, right? And so typically when we have people that are, we'll say, a civilian sheepdog plus a law enforcement officer, or a civilian sheepdog plus a former Marine. There are no former Marines, there's just active and separated Marines. Am I right? Am I right? Etc. Okay? So what are their specializations? What can they do? And then also, what can they do legally? What are they permitted to do? Because you might get into a situation where you have somebody that got in a jam with, law enforcement and the legal system back in the day, and they want to be on the security team, and they should be on the security team, but they can't carry a weapon. Okay, not a problem. We're going to pair you with somebody who can. And I realize a lot of people are like, why are you going to go rescue people while carrying weapons? The answer is we go into some really bad places. Some really bad places. And so positions of strength dictates that I got to be able to protect me and make sure that me is good first so that I can get everybody else good. And when you are in an area where you have all the resources and you're surrounded by all the people who don't, a lot of those people get pretty impatient and they just decide that they're going to take what you want. Which is why I say, hey, cool, you're a prepper. You should come on mission with us, because this whole, well, I'm just gonna, when the balloon goes up, bring your kit and show me. Show me, because we are actually operating in environments where the shit has hit the fan. For real. It's real training, and we have a protocol. The first thing that we do is we serve our Creator. The second thing we do is we serve our fellow man. The third thing we do is everything is training. Eyes and ears switched on the entire time that we're deployed. If you are interested in doing that, you can go into bearindependent.com, go to the Doing Good tab, and sign up for the mission email blast, or go to grindstoneministries.com. You can sign up there as well, because that's where we do all of this. And it's great training, it's really fulfilling, and you get to be a blessing to other people and be blessed in that process. So who matters? What equipment do you need? Okay, if I have a team and part of that is kitchen staff, is there a kitchen where we're set up? No. Guess what? We need a field expedient kitchen, which means we need the equipment to have for that. Okay, so we got to bring that or buy it or find it or make it somewhere. Okay, what tools do you need? What hardware do you need? What machinery, etc.? What equipment do you need to accomplish the mission? And I realize for a lot of y'all, you're probably looking this through the mind frame of bugging out or bugging in, perhaps, and establishing a position of strength within your community. Great. Both of those are great. But by clearly understanding what this is, you can take this concept of what equipment do we need. If I'm bugging out, well, I need the daily driver. It's got to be loaded with a trailer, and that trailer's loaded up with my bug out kit, and I need my people in my bug out bags, and I'd like to have an extra water filter, and blah, blah, blah. What equipment do you need to accomplish that mission? And it varies from mission to mission. Item 7, getting back to skill sets, okay? What do we need to know? What skill sets, not just what skill sets do we have amongst our different personnel here on mission with us, or amongst the team that we're going to pull individuals from to put together a team to go complete this mission. What skill sets do we know, and what skill sets do we need? If we know how to tap dance, hog tie a calf, and do laundry, well, just 3 random things. But what we need to know is how to plumb a sewer pipe. We're SOL, right? And so we need to know what skill sets are going to be required on this team to accomplish the mission. And so again, the more specific your mission parameters are, what's the mission profile, the better you can understand what skill sets we need. When you know what skill sets we need, you can figure out the who and how many who's to form your teams with. I hope this is making sense. I'm trying to cruise, but also make this palatable for you. And like I said, this is definitely a scribblage video. Lodging. Where are you going to put all these people? Where's your FOB, your base camp? Okay, why does this matter? Because you're going to end up with a group of people, either for a short period of time or a long period of time. Hydrate. Pinky up. Is this a pinky up scenario? All right. You're going to end up with a large group or a small group of people for a short period of time or a long period of time that are going to need, at a minimum, a place to sleep and to get out of inclement weather, a way to eat, prepare food, a place to eat, a place to clean themselves and their equipment, a place that is secure, right? Now we're getting back to security. These are all considerations just for the FOB. Fuel, right? And you could add to that the ability to recharge batteries, literally recharge your batteries, and fuel, commo, and coordination. And there's other considerations as well, but this is just kind of the baseline here. We are going to coordinate out of this FOB who on our teams using these skill sets are going to use this equipment to go to this place in this many vehicles to accomplish this facet of this specific mission. Aha, see how it starts to build. Okay, so you need this at a minimum for a forward operating base. Food. Yeah. An army marches on its what? Stomach. Food. 2 pounds per person per day. That's what it is. 2 pounds per person per day. Approximately 3,200 calories when you're doing the things. Can you go? And we've had all the arguments. Well, Bear, I can get by on 1,000 calories. Go for it. Go bust ass for 16 hours in a day on that 1,000 calories and tell me how much fuel you got left in the tank on day 2. The answer is none. You're now useless to me on day 2. Okay? So food, you need a place to stockpile it so that you can cook it using the equipment and the fuel that you have. And you need a mechanism or mechanisms to disperse it because not all of your people are likely to be at the FOB at the same time. So if you have people in the field doing these different facets of this mission, how do you get food from where you've prepared it and where it is stockpiled to the people who need it? Do they come get it? Do people go to them? Is there a supply drop every 3 days in your scenario that you're working here? How does all that work out? And the reason I bring this up is it matters because you will end up with teams in the field in certain areas where there is no drive-through, there is no Domino's. Hell, the cell phones don't work and there's no running water and they're hungry. So now do we take one of our vehicles from over here and our security personnel in the vehicle and somebody from logistics and put them in that vehicle to go now make a supply drop of food to the people in the field doing the things? Or do we pull people out of the field to come back to the FOB? See, and it matters in a big way, and we're going to get to this. The way this is coordinated is by having protocols in place, and then if those protocols fail to rise to the ability to actually make these things happen, commo, so you can figure it out on the fly. Okay? Water and drinks. Drinks are obvious. Coffee, you should have lots of coffee because coffee fuels missions and it's awesome. Oral rehydration salts, Gatorade, Powerade, stuff like that, especially when people are exerting themselves. Let's see. And then water, lots of water. Water not only for drinking, but for food preparation and for cleaning. And then this gets back to the same concept of how do you disperse this stuff? How do you get it from where it is to where it needs to be? And what are the supply chain logistics of that? And especially, I hope, you know what, this just came to me. This was not where this was going, but this is a great video. If you are in a militia or you know somebody who's in a militia, share this with them, please, because the supply chain logistics of militias, by and large, have been terrible, okay? 72 hours of operational capability because that's what the average grunt can carry on his back, and then after that it falls apart and everybody is now a liability. We have no assets anymore because we have no supply chain logistics. So if the mission is to go over here and oppose tyranny actual by standing in the line between the feds and these people or whatever, cool. Now we know what the mission is. The moment you deploy assets against that mission, you need to start spinning up the support chain, the supply chain logistics, the support personnel, all that infrastructure that has to support those people in the field. The handle of the pointy end of the spear. The pointy end doesn't go anywhere without a handle. Remember that, my militia people, okay? The pointy end doesn't go anywhere without a handle. So this is a very good video for that as well. Not saying it's just for that, it's for mission planning in general. But it's applicable, highly applicable to what the militia does or espouses to do. Sanitation, potties. Where you gonna poop, bro? Because in a lot of cases, it ain't in a toilet because there's no running water. Next, figure it out. It matters. And it's a subject that like nobody talks about. They literally wrote a book about this, guys. It's called Everybody Poops. I'm going to get a copy and I'm going to read it on camera to you guys, just so that you remember. Something you do every day, you should probably do it every day, that we just take for granted. And just poop in the bowl and hit the thing, wash the hands, back to work. What happens when that doesn't work anymore? Where are you going to do it? Showers and consumables. Consumables are big. If you can front load consumables into your mission. Let's say, again, the idea is we're going to set up a fob so that we can operate in this area so that we can go be a blessing to other people. Cool. We could do lots of dishes, but that's going to burn our water. So having consumables like cups, bowls, dishes that are consumable that we can burn or trash or whatever helps quite a bit with that. Commo. We have a protocol in the Bear Nation. Vehicles do not roll unless they have a radio in them, and we typically run simplex, from unit to unit, usually on a MERS frequency. Frequency mode. Thank you, Chinese lady. A radio, this is a Baofeng. UV5R, Uniform Victor 5 Romeo, or whatever, just pick one you like. And y'all who've been here long enough know I'm not the commo guy, so don't ask me. I don't know. Hey, Bear, what should I don't know. Got a couple of videos on the subject, which basically says, here's what I have, and then the rest is, I don't know. So protocol is there must be a radio in every vehicle, because if we're going to be doing convoy operations, which we are, moving multiple vehicles to the same place at the same time is now a convoy op, okay? So we need to be able to communicate. So always a radio and always a first aid kit in every vehicle. This is obviously, well, maybe not obviously, one of mine, okay? But there must be commo and first aid in every vehicle at a minimum. Additionally, I like tow straps in vehicles in case you have a vehicle that gets disabled, you can tow it out of the way. During Hurricane Katrina, when I was deployed there, I almost had to cut some thugs in half with a steel 066 Magnum running a 32-inch bar with skip chisel on it, because my truck died in the middle of the intersection of bad and worse. And literally, these thugs on the corner, there was like, let's not exaggerate, 4 on each corner of the 4-way intersection. They all just kind of looked at each other and started descending on my position as I was right in the middle of the road. And so because we were working for FEMA, we were disarmed. I don't work for FEMA anymore, even as a subcontractor. No, thank you. We just do our own things, grindstoneministries.com. We were disarmed. So I had no weapon other than the steel 066 Magnum chainsaw in the back of the truck, which I then hopped out of the truck, and praise Yah, it fired on the second pull, and I had this chainsaw wide open, and they all kind of went, oh, white boy's crazy, he's gonna kill us. And I was like, I don't care how many of you guys bum rush me, I'm taking at least half of you out with this saw. But I had a radio, and I was able to radio in and say, yo, it's Bear. I'm at the corner of bad and worse. I need backup now. Please get out here with a vehicle that can tow my truck, because my truck has become disabled. How copy? Good copy. ETA 6 minutes. Cool. Roger that. Make it ASAP because XYZ. Copy that, Bear. We're inbound. Roger that. Cool. And then it was chainsaw time. And yes, that actually happened. And yes, I love that anecdote, but it proves the point that you should have commo amongst your vehicles. And also, EDC helps. The opportunistic nature of a disaster, of chaos, can be appalling at times. And so again, that's one of the reasons we do what we do, is because it's great training to see it firsthand, to experience it. When you look at toddlers wearing nothing but diapers covered in mud because they're living underneath blue FEMA tarps because their house has been destroyed, and that is the extent of the care that their government can and or will provide them, you get a real sense of personal responsibility and love for your fellow man. I just can't let that go. I'm gonna fix this. I don't know how, but that's not my job to know how. It's the Father's job to know how. We're just gonna fix this. And yeah, you see a depth of humanity that is not often seen elsewhere. So highly encouraging y'all to go do this stuff. But commo matters. Who gets a radio? That matters. Number your radios. Take a paint pen and write on the back of them. This is radio 17. Susie has radio 17. Cool. At the end of shift, Susie puts it back in the charger cradle. Okay, have spare batteries for your radio. Getting back to this, your fob, you should have the capability to recharge things. Who gets a radio? What frequencies? You should have your PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. For example, our security teams run different radios on different frequencies than everybody else. There is crosstalk, they can interconnect, but we don't need all the logistics people tying up the airwaves while the security people are trying to pass pertinent info. Make sense? Okay. So what frequencies? When do we use a radio? Not just to talk. Hey, Bill, I noticed it looks like you got a little scrape on your bumper there. Are you going to be able to? That's not why we use the radio, right? And so what are your protocols? How to use the radio? Push the button. And then why? Why are we using this radio? To pass on pertinent information, right? Again, it's not to have a nice lengthy chat, although some of y'all hammies, like that's what you guys do for a living. And so we kind of got to shut that down on mission a little bit. It's not about being a chatterbox. Excuse me, it's about relaying pertinent information and then clearing the channel. Okay. 13, scope creep. You have to be aware of scope creep because you get in the thick of it and then all of a sudden your mission parameters start to change. Scope creep, which is why you need a clearly defined mission and you have to be specific because the mission statement is this, whatever this is. If what you're doing or proposing to do does not actively support the mission statement, you have scope creep. You need to shut it down or you need to change the mission statement. And if you're gonna change the mission statement, you need to make sure you can actually allocate the assets to that scope creep. You don't wanna half do two things, okay? You wanna complete the mission. You don't wanna jeopardize the mission because you split your assets, okay? So clearly defining the mission helps mitigate scope creep. Clearly defining the mission is dependent upon solid intel. And then after you have this solid intel developed, you need to put together an intel package or a mission profile that's going to include things like maps. Where are we operating? Okay. POCs, points of contact. Who do I need to talk to when I get there? Directions from your pause to my pause. This is the route that you want to take. Protocols. Here's how we deal with this situation should this arise. Liaisons. For example, our security team always liaises with the local police department to let them know, hey, we are in your neighborhood. There's a whole bunch of us. We are squared away. This is what we are doing. We will be in this location for this period of time with this many people, this many vehicles. Why don't you all come out and meet us? Here we are. Now, depending on what your Shtf pet scenario is, you may or may not want that, but the point is you're always going to be operating in somebody else's AO. Liaisons. Because you don't want the police to roll up and you go, who the hell are you? You go, bro, we're the good guys. Okay? They don't know you're the good guys unless you go out of your way, make the effort to introduce yourselves first, okay? Team leaders, getting back to teams. Who's responsible for what? Bob, you run security. Joe, you run the kitchen. Sally, you're going to run logistics. Todd, you're going to run vehicles. Blah, 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 blah. Who's the team leader? Etc. 14, budget, timeline. Okay. A goal without a budget and a timeline is just a dream. That's all it is. Okay? It is not real until you put constraints on said goal. Okay? It's just a dream unless you have a budget and a timeline. Now, in this case, budget could be allocation of personnel and material assets rather than dollar bills, y'all. However, you need a budget. What are we allocating towards this mission, towards this problem that we're trying to solve? And we need a timeline. This has to happen in the next 6 weeks, 72 hours, year and a half, whatever. A goal without constraints, without a budget and timeline is just a dream. We're just playing if we don't actually constrain that, okay? Other considerations would be weather. What is the typical weather this time of year in the area that we're operating in? What can we expect on the extremes? You know, hot, cold, snow, rain, sleet, hail, whatever, okay? Weather is a factor. What are the phases of the moon, right? It all matters depending on what you're trying to do. And an area study as well. Again, getting back to the mission and being specific, understanding the area that you're working in to the best of your ability allows you to know, as you're developing your solid intel, what routes to take through what neighborhoods to avoid, who to liaise with, what points of contact do we need to make. Because of this particular environment, it's going to make more sense that Steve is the team leader of security here because of XYZ versus blah, 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 blah. As we're doing this area study, we've found out that right now in situ, there's no electricity. So because of that, it's going to be really hard to get perishable food. So we need to look at non-perishable food. And the water's not going to run, which means we got to bring our own water in, which means that when we're dealing with things like setting up the fob, we need to make these considerations because of XYZ. So the more detailed and accurate your area study is, the better it is for you when you're trying to paint this picture. Lastly, 15, liabilities. Honestly, look at your plan and look at the assets you're deploying against that plan and pick it apart and figure out where are liabilities, where are we most likely to fail here, and then firm it up. For us, doing grindstone stuff, we get to operate under Good Samaritan doctrine, okay? But we have people sign a liability waiver, meaning if you come out on project with us and you drop a sledgehammer on your toe, that's your fault, bro. It's not mine. I'm really sorry about your toe, but you don't get to sue me for $1 million, okay? If you look at something like bugging out, man, what would a liability be? Noise discipline could be a liability. People running their mouth, right? Now you have an OPSEC issue. That's a liability. Not properly compartmentalizing all of the intel that you need to actually affect the mission. And then people who shouldn't know, whether they're on your team or not, find out and go blabbermouthing. That's a liability. Complexity of the plan. The more complex your route is, the higher likelihood you have of being compromised or something bad happening. That's a liability. So going through and bring other people in and have an outside perspective to the best of your ability while maintaining OPSEC to look at it and go, yeah, I like this, but I really don't like this. And then have the people who are going to affect this plan look at the plan and go, yeah, I like it, boss, but I got problems with this, this, and this. Let's change it. Copy that. So work the liabilities to the best of your ability. That was a long one, guys. I'm sorry, but I was trying to cruise. Hold on, I gotta put this stuff away. I was trying to cruise, and I hope that I did. I want to thank every one of y'all. I especially want to thank our patrons for supporting us at Patreon. There's a little baby bear up here. You can click the baby bear. It'll take you to Patreon. $1 a month, and it's not $1 a month because you like us. It's $1 a month because there's 24 exclusive pieces of content per month over there, similar to this, $1 a month or more. There are levels. And without Patreon, this content wouldn't exist. So thank you, patrons. You are the economic engine of the Bear Nation. Guys and girls, I hope this helps. I hope to see you come out on mission. I get the question all the time, Bear, when are you going to do a meet and greet? And the answer is, I'll be in Oklahoma spring 2020, blessing people and loving on people. I'll be in Iowa summer 2020, blessing people and loving on people. If you want to hang out with me, come see me on mission. I don't have any meet and greets scheduled because my schedule is insane. 3 businesses, a ministry, a wife, kids, a homestead, a church, a family. It's insane. So you want to hang out, come see me on mission. But understand, really, don't come see me on mission because I'm there. Come see me on mission because you want to love on people and bless people and help serve the kingdom. Now, at the end of the day, when we're done with that, we can all sit around the campfire, maybe have a little sip of Grandpa's cough medicine and fellowship a little bit. That's cool, but don't come because of me. Come because your Creator tickles your heart and says, you need to go, okay? Mission planning for SHTF. Shalom, y'all.